I'm back for another big, huge 3D scan. This one is bigger than anything I've done before. This is an entire complex starting with the Minorite theater. This thing is absolutely massive. There are a couple of big stages. There is a workshop, there's a museum, there's offices, there's actually apartments for people to stay in, and we are scanning the entire thing with the Realsee Galois P4. And this is going to be amazing. So I'm going to just shoot a bunch of B-roll as I walk around scanning. This facility is going to take a couple days for me to scan. So we're going to have a lot of footage. I'll just be cutting this in, adding a little VO for context. And then at the end of that, we will take a look at the final model. I'll talk about what it took to put it all together. And of course, publish the full thing for you to see. So let's get started with our first scan. I'm actually scanning 3 separate buildings in doing this, and the main building, which I'm starting with, is the biggest one. And I'm starting on the main stage, which I've just scanned most of the stage area itself. Now I'm about to head up into the bleachers, so the camera's ready to go. And the countdown has begun. One of the things you'll notice is that I do have an iPad connected to the camera this time. In the previous video, I showed you that you don't actually have to do that. You can do this completely app-free. However, given the size and scope of this project, I wanted to have the iPad connected all the time. I've rigged this up. Let me show you how this is set up now. You can see I've got my iPad just kind of hanging here because if I had it mounted out like this, then it would actually get into the scan. So I've got to make sure that the iPad is tucked away. I'm using a different tripod now because this one's a lot easier and quicker to set up on stairs. With this quick release handle, I can very quickly change the length of the legs, which is going to be super easy on stairs. However, I also have to make sure I collapse this or else the handle itself will cast a shadow in the LiDAR scan. I'm going to take this up the stairs now so you'll see. Just squeeze the handle and reset that tripod and we're good to go. Now, since the iPad is connected, that means that I can trigger the scan from the iPad itself. However, when triggering it from the iPad, you don't have a countdown, but you do have a countdown if you trigger it by tapping on the back of the Realsee camera itself. That means that I can tap and hold on there. It'll give me the 5-second countdown. I can get out of the way, and then the scan will automatically transfer over to the iPad. This just saves me from having to carry the iPad back and forth, which of course I could do as well. I'm about to scan this platform here that leads to the back door of the tower, the Judgement tower. And I should have that open, and I can open the door. However, I've looked in and I've realized it's a back entrance is probably not the way that we want the tour to run. We don't want necessarily people to go through that way. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it closed. Later on, I will be scanning around the building so that we can see the actual entrance to this tower, which will also be scanned. One of the challenges sometimes in a really big space like this is that you have to run to get out of the way. But I'm in touch with the folks at Realsee, and they just told me, I guess I should have figured this out, that I can actually just stand behind the camera. So here's the 360 camera and then the 2 LiDARs on the side, but I can actually just stand behind it. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do this time. So I'm gonna get back here, and now I'm just gonna stand behind it. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. They insist that I won't get in the LiDAR shot by doing that. So there you go. So now I'm scanning a bunch of the outdoor area because of course you need to be able to see what the building looks like. There's a huge amount of construction going on over here, which will show up in the scan, but obviously won't affect it. This is one of the buildings. This is the church, converted church. Now it's a event room. And then the museum is that there. And then there's the tower behind it. Yeah, there's a lot to do. Earlier when I was filming the backside of this building here, I had left the door closed because I said that it was a maintenance entrance. I don't want people walking through there. So then I ended up scanning this huge outdoor path so that people could get to the front of this building. Well, it turns out that that wasn't actually a maintenance entrance. So let me show you what it is. Coming into this building and up these stairs to the upstairs area, you see the door, you see my camera. Well, that door is what leads to where we scanned earlier. So what this means is that I need to rescan this area, which is fine. Even though that point was scanned like 50 points ago, I can go in and delete this point, reposition the camera here and rescan it with the door open so that everything lines up and we have an open path to walk through. So here's what we've got so far. You can see the tower, you can see all the outdoor stuff. I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's gotten huge. It's getting to a point where it's hard to navigate on the tablet. But if I flip over to 2D view, it might be a little easier to see. And sure enough, the points 85, 86, 87, and so on, that's up the stairs. And then 19, that's the one that I did a long time ago with the door closed. And you can see, there it is. So I'm going to delete this point now and rescan that. And we'll get out of the way. Now that's point 88, and of course we see the door wide open. I am scanning this very tight stairwell here, and something I have learned from doing scans before is that when it comes to stairs, don't skimp on the number of scans. You might think that you don't need that many, but every 3 or 4 steps is generally a good idea. It just gives you more data to work with, and you don't have to include all those in the 360 tour, but they do make assembling the LiDAR and therefore the 360 tour much cleaner, much easier. So get some extra scans, get more than you think you need on the steps, and then you can just delete those points from the 360 tour later because nobody needs to see that many of them. This facility is certainly not on one level, and it's not even on like 1, 2, 3 simple clean levels. Especially from the outdoor area, which is largely built on a hill, the ground floor around a lot of different areas are going to be at different levels. Now, the 3D mapping LiDAR software has no problem putting all that together. However, when you do get into a situation where you have very specific multiple floors, like I do in this tower, you really do want to go into the software and identify those as separate floors. So here's what I do. You can see the scan that I've got so far, and you can really see here in the 2D view how they're starting to pile up. So points 90 and 91 were both on the stairs, and that's the first steps up, and then 91, the next steps up. An argument could be made that the downstairs level should be a separate level, and I may go in and do that as well. But for now, I'm just going to add a second floor. So I go up to the top left and I go to settings. It's currently called 1F. I'm going to add 1 floor above. So now we're looking at just the second floor, which of course has nothing on it. So what I'll do is go back to the all scans view. So I'm looking at all floors together, 1 and 2. And let's go over here to point 90. And 90, I'm going to move that to the second floor. So now it looks like that's the only scan on this floor. We'll go ahead back to the first floor view or to all, go back to 91 floors and put that on 2F as well. So I've just moved these 2 to the second floor, and now I'll leave it on the second floor and continue scanning. And of course, everything else I add will get added to this second floor. This building is absolutely stunning. It is such an incredible, incredible location. Beautiful ceiling here, guardrails, platform all around you can stand on. This place is incredible. This is used for art shows, for small music events, for all kinds of stuff. This is an incredible space. So that's this second floor done. And you can see now that we've separated it out, it's a lot easier to see details. Now this has another level. It has the walkway up here. And arguably, is that another floor? Is it a third floor? Should it be labeled as one? I'm going to go ahead and call it a third floor, especially since knowing that throughout the rest of the facility, I am going to have other things on higher floors. And this way I can just kind of keep them all together. So I don't need to move anything. I haven't added anything from the stairs up to the third floor yet, which, by the way, is kind of how I like to start things. If it's going to be the third floor, the first steps up to that floor become part of the third floor. That just seems to make sense because those wouldn't exist if there was no third floor, so why make them part of the second floor? At least that's my logic. So let's get scanning. So that is the Judgement Tower complete. I don't know why it's called the Judgement Tower. It just is. I look at it and I think, man, people used to stand up here and judge those down below. But I've been told that that is not the case. That's not the way it is. It's not the way it was. I don't know what it was for, though. I'll have to find that out. Maybe I'll put a wiki link down below. Anyway, this is done. I started on the main stage, which actually opens to 2 amphitheaters, one outdoors and one indoors. You might have seen the indoor one in the beginning. And I've scanned, I think, the entirety of the outdoor of the facility. On our way into this building, into Judgement Tower, I got the ground floor, this first floor, and now up to the second floor where we are right now. So this is the first building that is now complete. Next, I'm going to move into the church or old cathedral that's now a big event space, because that's just a couple of rooms, including a basement. And then we'll move into the main building, which has, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 different rooms that I'm going to have to do. So we still got to work it out for us. And now I'm back outside, and this is the entrance to that church or cathedral. I've already scanned this whole outdoor area here. So now we need to see if the next scan automatically lines up with everything we did before. It will, but let me just show you how we do this. All right, so now I'm going to switch this from third floor that we were in the tower back to 1F, or the first floor, ground floor. This is where we were in the beginning. We can see we've got a ton of points here. So now I'm going to flip out to 2D view. I am right where 26 is. I'm standing right in front of 26 right now. So I don't need to tell the system where I am. It's just going to figure that out on its own. But now that we know where it should show up, we're going to go ahead and add this next scan and see what happens. So go ahead and get this thing going. Start that scanning. Get out of here. Sure enough, point number 112 right in front of 26, exactly like it's supposed to be. Now I'm going to go downstairs into the cellar or the basement of this church. So I'll go into the floor menus, go to settings, and now add a new floor below, and it says B1, basement 1, perfect. And I am going to start heading down the stairs. Now, should I scan the stairs as this floor or the floor beneath? Well, based off the logic that I used earlier, where the stairs up wouldn't exist unless that floor existed. So if we're on the first floor, stairs up to the second floor only exist if there is a second floor. So the very first step became the first part of the second floor. I'm going to use that same logic for going down. Since this is the ground floor, the base level, you wouldn't go downstairs if there was not a cellar. So that's what we're going to go with. That's the logic I'm using. All right, I'm going to do one more scan on this level actually for at the very top of the stairs at 1F, and then we'll start carrying this thing down the stairs. So let's do it. There it is, 139 at the top of the stairs. Now it's time to drop down to the basement level and figure out how to squeeze this thing down these really narrow stairs. This area under the church is super cool. This is part of the original foundation, and what you saw upstairs is built floating above this. None of it's connected to the original structure that we see here. Anyway, it's quite dark down here, which is interesting. We're going to see how this works out for the 360, but things are scanning together beautifully, so we'll just keep on going. Well, that's a wrap for today. I have maybe half scanned. I hope I have half. This is where I left off yesterday. I had a scan right here. I'm doing another one right here just to make sure everything connects, and then we're going to go up and down these hallways. And just a few scans after the one you just saw, I am back in this room, the main stage. Now, there's definitely some confusion here, and I'm going to have to figure out how to deal with this. But as you've seen, I can label each scan to be on F1, F2, F3, B1, B2, B3, and so on. Well, I was in the basement in B1, and that's where I scanned underneath the church. And I realized after many, many scans, as I walked my way through some random hallways, I found out that I was back at this stage, which started at F1. So this whole place is multi-layered, built on hills, quite confusing. I'm not really sure how I'm going to handle all this in the scan, but for now what I did was I moved that first point that I scanned this morning to floor 1, and now it is connecting with everything here on floor 1. Now we're back in the theater. I still need to scan the entire seat area behind me, so we're going to start with this point right here on the floor and get her done. So for this shot, there's simply no way for me to get out of the way in time, so we're building a little Easter egg where we'll be in the shot. And here we have yet another level down. I don't even know if this is B1 or B2. I've got a lot to figure out, but we're going to scan it. Once again, another new room. I literally had no idea most of these rooms existed. We just keep getting deeper and deeper. And at some point, I'm going to have to call this another sub-basement level or something. This here is part of the museum. It is a puppet workshop, but as a museum piece, it's not an actual workshop. We are going to see an actual workshop later on. These are now the dressing rooms, which are a little bit lower than the ground floor, the first floor. And I think I'm going to call this part of B1, basement 1, because it matches the ground outside that is down a hill that I've already tagged as B1. Oh my God, that's a lot of stairs. Well, this is now the second floor, which makes sense because that was the first floor, but also the church and all that, I have moved to the second floor. So now I'm at the same level as the church. The basement of the church turned out to be the first floor. It's all very confusing, but it is coming together. These are some of the coolest rooms in the house. These are the workshops. This is a sewing one. You'll see the puppet workshop in a minute. They've got a full 3D printing workshop. This is cool. It's so colorful. There's so much going on in here. This is a great scan. Look at these rooms. Workshops for making props, making puppets, 3D printing. There is just so much cool stuff in here. It's like Geppetto's workshop. I just found out there's another floor I didn't even know about. I don't think I'm finishing this today. Well, I found one of the extra levels that I could get to. It's the catwalk. The view out one of the windows from one of the top floors. And I think this is up to the highest floor. This would be a 5th floor, I believe. And it is actually an attic with storage for all kinds of old props and so on. It's time to wrap this thing up. I am on the top floor in the attic. It's pretty toasty up here. I'm getting my last scans for today. I will be back because there's a whole floor that I haven't done yet, but I'm probably not going to shoot that for this. So let's just wrap this thing up here. I will put a link down below to the full 360 tour and of course the 3D scans. You can check it all out for yourself and see what it all came out like. This project is huge. I have, I think, close to 600 scan points right now and I still have more to go. So it's absolutely a monster. The camera has performed beautifully well. Really, really, really perfectly. I actually haven't had any errors, any glitches at all this whole time. I have rescanned because I made mistakes, deleted a scan and redone it. But as far as the camera actually working, it's worked perfectly. I'm thrilled with how well this has worked. So thanks for watching, coming along on the road on the tour, and make sure you check out the full thing down below. Thanks, and see you in the next video.